Hi, my name is Simran Singh. I'm the first negative speaker. The affirmative says in the first contention that California has a huge debt. If you look at it, California has been in debt for multiples of years, and actually evidence suggests that now it is moving out of debt. It has made attempts to move out of debt, and that this problem is not really a problem that the affirmative is trying to show. They argue that drastic budget cuts are incoming. Well, budget cuts have already been made, and California education and all these social services have already been cut. So now that the economy is actually recovering from this, there's no actual brink that they're bringing to the table. There's no actual, well, debt's always been there. Look at the country right now. It's just survived this huge debt and the government shutdown. So debt's always been there. There's no brink to this argument. It says cuts on education leads to the shortage of skilled workers. The cuts on education have already been there, like I said before, and the shortage of workers is not because of it's because of a shortage of jobs. There's no jobs around, so obviously there's barely any workers. There are workers, there's just no jobs, and which is already on the solving. It's getting solved now since there's no more debt crisis at hand. Their solution to this is legalizing marijuana. Now, they estimate that the tax revenue from legalizing marijuana will go to solving California's debt crisis, but in reality, most of all, if not all of the debt or the revenue generated will move towards a public fund where it is decided, where the politicians and the government decides where it's going. There's no guarantee that this debt will ever go towards education or social service, particularly. This is evident in the case of Washington and Colorado, where they have legalized marijuana, and there's no increase in education budget or social services budget. It just generally, as a state has increased. They said tax revenue will go back to the public pocket. Once again, there's no real evidence of this presented or anything like that. The affirmative's plan is to legalize marijuana. They want to put a gateway drug back on the street, open to public access, and so it can be another thing that people look forward to once they turn 21. Legalizing marijuana leads to the society as a whole accepting a drug into its midst, and not only is marijuana a drug, it's also a sin tax, which means that it is a drug that we're taxing. So basically, it's like sin we're taxing to so that the society as a whole has agreed that this is something we can profit off of, and not really accepted that it's a drug, and they're just moving past that. Legalizing marijuana will lead to a giant addiction in teenagers and society. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, National Institutes of Health, December 2012. Long-term marijuana users trying to quit report withdrawal symptoms including irritability, sleeplessness, decreased appetite, anxiety, and drug craving, all of which can make it difficult to remain abstinent. Behavioral interventions, including cognitive behavioral therapy and motivational incentives, example providing vouchers for goods or services to patients who remain abstinent, have proven to be effective. But although no medications are currently, with recent discoveries have been working, that there's no real cure to marijuana's addiction, and there's no real promise in this to the solution of this problem. Also, legalizing marijuana puts another alcohol or drunk driving sort of incident back on the street. Legalizing marijuana is going to create a new type of drunk driving, or driving under the influence of marijuana, which is going to lead to more accidents and more deaths because of people who are driving while under the influence of marijuana. Driving under the influence of drugs is increasing in numbers. U.S. Department of Health and Services, National Institutes of Health, December 2012. According to 2012 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, an estimated 10.3 million people aged 12 or older reported driving under influence of illicit drugs during the year prior to being surveyed. This was higher than the rate in 2011. And by comparison, in 2012, an estimated 29.1 million people reported driving under the influence of drugs at least once in the past year. So what we're saying is legalizing marijuana not only creates another alcohol driving under the drugs kind of problem, it also creates another menace that society has to deal with. Already, drunk drivers are responsible for over 1,000 deaths every single year, and this will only increase that number. And that's not open for cross-examination.
Okay, so you say that, it's whatever revenue that we generate from legalizing it, that it won't go back into the public's purse, that it would be more like a policy, that the politics have charge of it, and we don't really know where that money's going.
Yes.
Do you also concede that tobacco is a drug?
Tobacco is not classified as a drug.
Okay, so if we're saying that we should tax marijuana like cigarettes with that sin tax on it to generate revenue, how bad does a drug have to be before it can be legalized?
Well, cigarettes don't put you in an altered state of mind.
Then why do people smoke cigarettes to relax?
It doesn't put you. Cigarettes and marijuana are totally different. They don't put you in an altered state of mind that marijuana does. In cigarette, you still have control of your body. You still have control of your actions. It's not the same.
And in marijuana, you don't.
No, people are under an altered state, which there's no guarantee that people have full control of their.
Okay, and your last point, you say that, is somewhere in your evidence you say that, you give a number and you say that these people were driving and they admitted to driving with some kind of drug in their system, but
Yes.
you never once actually said it was just marijuana. So these people could be hyped up on like cocaine and all these bigger drugs and not marijuana, yes?